Hello, everyone, and welcome to our segment today. Oh, my goodness. I don't know where you are, but where we are, it's sunny, it's beautiful, it's fantastic. And if it's sunny where you are, I hope you've enjoyed the weather today. Today, we're going to be talking about something that gives us the shivers. It gives me the shivers. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if it gives you the shivers, but when I hear interview questions, I start to panic. Oh my God. Just
No
thinking
matter
about
how
it
many
now
times
just
you
puts me on the
panic.
hot seat. But if this is your first time joining us, I know, oh my God. Do you know, this requires me to take off my glasses for a bit so that you can see how my eyes are petrified. But today we're not here to petrify you, we're here to make you. I've got a glass of water here because this one, it's a hot seat and we need to quench the fire. With me, I've got two amazing ladies who just, do you know what? They have my back, I have their backs. Take it away, ladies. Let's
Hello, everyone.
join.
It's
Do
so
you
good to
want
be
to
here again.
introduce yourself, please?
Yes. My name is Onyinye Anikwe, and I am a teacher. And I also have a YouTube channel, Onyi Anikwe. I am so happy to be here to share. In fact, this topic is one that is so dear to me. So dear to me. I'm so excited to be a part of the discussion today.
Mommy, you're
Hi
on the hot
guys,
seat
you're
today. Do
welcome.
you know what? I think I'm going to
Yeah.
even arrange the way this thing, the layout of this thing, so that yourself for the newcomers on our channel today.
Okay, hi guys, you're welcome back. So this is Teaching Abroad episode 3. My name is Omowumi and I'm a licensed teacher from Nigeria and I'm also a licensed teacher in the UK. I also have a YouTube channel, Omowumi, where I talk about teaching in the UK and lifestyle. So today we are on the hot seat and we're going to be talking about the questions you might come across about in your interview for a teacher abroad. Yeah, that is what we're discussing today.
Fantastic. I've already panic. Then I remind myself that I want to travel, and to travel, I have to earn a living, and to earn a living, I do what I do best, and that is I teach. Guys, you're here with us today on this segment with one of the first questions we all get. Oh, that question that puts you on the spot. Tell me about yourself. Ooh.
Mm.
Yeah, I think for this particular question, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's just giving a quick summary of yourself. You're a passionate,
Okay.
dedicated teacher. You know a bit of your experience. I have 4 years experience teaching. What grade level you teach? Um, what your values are. Maybe ensuring that learning is fun and engaging for the kids, or maybe inclusive learning, and just a quick summary, because I find out with this question you might get carried away and then go on and on and on and on. Remember, you're still going to be asked other questions where you get the
Mm.
opportunity to, showcase your experience and all that. So it's important to sit down, plan out this particular first question, because it's the first question everyone gets literally in every interview, not just teaching interview,
Yeah.
right? And you know how first impressions make first impression can be really, it can linger on the impression you make the first time. So you want to really take your time to draft this out and think about it before you even get into the interview.
Now, my way of answering this question is usually I will talk about where I am now in my career. I will talk about how I got to that point in my career and where I fit into the company's or the school's values. Now, supposing you, before you do this, you should have looked on the website, you should have familiarized yourself with the school's ethos and the school's values, um,
Mm.
so that you're not talking, how do we say in Nigeria, out of point.
Out of line.
So if the school, for instance, is a faith school, yeah, if the school is a faith school, you're not going to be saying, and yes, I'm going to, let the children themselves and wear anything they want. That sort of restrictive, the dressing, for instance, is quite restrictive. So even though you're going to say you're going to promote inclusivity and you're going to promote uniqueness and creativity, you're not going to mention some things outside of that. I'm currently a classroom teacher. I teach science and I love to create inclusive classrooms for my children in the classroom. I teach 7 to 8 year olds. Before I got to this point, and then I quickly mention how I got to this point. Just a brief summary: I was a TA, I was a volunteer teacher, I loved it so much. And then I decided to go and get trained and became a teacher. And then when I want to link it into the school's values, I then make sure I pinpoint a few things about the school and I link how my experience so far fits into their objective. What do you ladies think?
That's just it. You're very right.
Can you
So
hear
talking
me?
about yourself, yes, we can hear you. So the question about tell me about yourself, you're
Okay.
not being asked, you're not being asked where you're coming from or the village you're coming from or the number of children you have, just like we did with the CV last week. So they're not interested in that anyways. They just want to want you to tell them about your career because you're applying as a teacher. So you need to tell them things that are in line with your career as a teacher. Why tell us about yourself? Just like Jay has said, you can tell them how you started your teaching journey, but don't tell them too much stories anyway. Don't get them bored. So tell them your teaching journey, how you have gotten to this point, your achievements. You can even tell them your achievements. You can you can say some. You can tell them some things about yourself. Yes, in line with teaching, in line with what the job role, what you have applied for. Yes, so don't go out of line or out of point. Just be direct. Tell them about yourself, your how you have tutored students, the number of students you've been able to tutor, because some teachers are not capable to like teach a large class, how you have managed your class. You can just incorporate all this into tell us about yourself, a brief one at that.
Yes. Do you know, sometimes, have you ever been in a situation where you're maybe on a panel where you're interviewing someone and then the person just carries on talking and you're thinking,
You're
it's
like,
okay,
please
don't
stop.
talk, don't say too
Wrap
much
it up,
anymore, or
wrap it
something
up
funny like that.
already.
Stop, wrap it up, move on.
One
And
thing one thing that came to me a bit like not like I was surprised is, when you have to do this interview, you also have to be doing on that same day, you're also supposed to teach and maybe even do
Yeah,
some other small things on the side. So it's like really
yeah.
a lot for you to be doing in one
Mm-hmm.
day, especially given the fact
Doing
that environment that is not your territory, right? So it's
yeah.
very important that you
yeah.
prepare.
Mm.
You have already made answers, already made scenarios. Like you have
Yes.
ideas, scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to be not just
Yes.
saying, "Oh, I create an inclusive classroom." They want to know how. They want you to give examples. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when I was teaching at
Yeah.
so and so place, this was how I managed my
Mm-hmm.
classroom. You also want to have hand
Yes.
all those
Yes.
scenarios in your
Mm-hmm.
mind already, because the whole event of the day will be already overwhelming. You need to be really
Yeah.
prepared. Yes.
Mm. Yes.
Right. Should we quickly say hi to the people who have joined us online, guys? Then we go to the next question. Yeah?
Yeah.
We have 12 people watching. All right. Hi, Livens Machingura. I hope I haven't slaughtered your name. This is something that makes me feel so guilty when I teach children, especially me who travels to different countries. I'm always very mindful of the way I've pronounced the name. So if I've not pronounced your name properly, I'm so sorry. But I think that's Machingura, if I'm right. We also have, who else is online? I can't seem to find. Can you guys see the people who are online so we can say hi to them?
Yeah, that's the
Well,
only
I know
person I see here.
That's the only person
Oyiye.
you can message.
Oyiye
Okay, Brume is online.
Oyiye said hi. Hi, Ogboro Brume. Yeah. And yeah, we promise to keep you informed and entertained. Hi, Uchechi. Hi, hi. Right. I know there are more people, 12 people watching, but if you can just leave your name down below, just say hi, and then we can give you a shout out. There's 14 people now. Thank you so much. Anaba Sapuruchi, welcome Ifoma,
That was
welcome
really
Micheline.
powerful.
Micheline, I think.
You
I'm
just
trying my
prophesied.
best to bring my teacher brain to life here too. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, it gives us a lot of power or a lot of value when we set up things like this and people come on and they watch, because it shows that, yeah, we're actually making sense. We're not just sitting down chatting to ourselves, because do you know what? Because we're teachers, if you leave us, we can chat from now till the cows come home. So thank you so much for coming. Now, I'm going to give it to Oyi to give us the second question, and then we will brainstorm the answers together.
Okay. Thank you, Janet. So the next question is, why did you apply for this particular role?
This is one of my favorite questions. Mommy, do you want to say something first before I take it? You know me, I'm a drama queen.
Yeah, still in line with tell us about yourself, and that is why it's coming second. It might come second in your interview with a question. So why have you applied for this role? Now, why you have applied for this role, you have to have, like Jay said earlier, check the website. You have to like say, like when I did my interview with one of the schools in the UK, I had to go on their website. I checked for the motto of the school. Yes, some, just for example, probably they say the motto of the school is probably education and success. So why have you applied for this role? You can just like incorporate some reasons why you. I don't want to give like a direct answer so that you won't just say, oh, this is what I want to go and say in my school. So you can just incorporate that into your answer. You're
Yeah,
going to tell them why you have applied for this role. Like tell them your passion for teaching should be number one. Your passion for teaching, why you have decided to apply for that role in that school, because there will be like there are several schools anyways. Why are you coming to apply for this job in her school? So you have to like give reasons why
exactly.
you have, yes, you have applied for that job role in that particular school. You can tell them about your experience, you can tell them about your skills, what you're bringing on board, yes, to that school. You can, if you're a science teacher, you can tell them how you have a success rate about conducting and preparing practicals in a safe environment. You can tell them a lot of things. There are a lot of things you can say about why you have applied for this job, and it has to be brief as well.
Yes, I would like to add on to what Mommy just said. With when most times when they send out interview letters to you, they also give you that opportunity to visit the school, right? And most of them will want you to visit before the interview. So that if you're able to visit the school before the interview, that's another thing. If you found things that kind of resonate with you in the course of your visit,
Mhm.
maybe the school has is very inclusive, so they have children from different races and all that. That's something you can bring in, so you can use your own race as an advantage for you. So you feel you'll be able to relate with a lot of the children and also the parents because of this and that and that. So that's something I think that will also come handy, the visit to the school and then checking the website as well and seeing if you have your own personal philosophies that align with the school's mission and vision statement. That's another thing to look out for.
Yeah.
What's their mission? What's their vision? Are they big on,
Yeah.
because like there's one school, theirs was, they were so big on safeguarding and all that. So you're thinking about things you could say in line with what it's or what is on their website or the school's
Yeah.
mission, vision, values, and yeah, things you observed as well when you visited.
Yeah. Now, for someone like me who always interviews for jobs, probably on a different continent, while maybe I might be on one continent while I'm interviewing for a school on another continent, I do not always have the opportunity to go into the school and get the aura of the school. So what I do is I actually spend time. I spend time. So from the minute I get the email saying, "Can you please tell us when your availability is, and can you interview on this day or that day?" I actually spend time doing the second homework. So the first homework will be looking at the school's websites before I apply. But the second homework that I do is that I actually go onto LinkedIn. I go on LinkedIn and I spend time looking at the people who they tell me will interview me. Because when I go and look at the people who would interview me, I sort of get a feel for them. Because they would have given you the name, they'll say so and so person and so person are going to interview you at 10 o'clock on maybe May the 26th of 2024. I will go onto LinkedIn and I will look at them and study them. Now, when I study them, if I know that they're into childcare or safeguarding, like Oyin said, or if they're into restorative ways of behavior policy, I will make sure that I tailor my answer of why did you come here to work. I would say something like, so I've worked in this particular school for 2 years. My contract is coming to an end, and for the sake of professional growth, I looked online and I saw that you're into, and I will mention that thing, that thing that the person is really into, or because of the school, because of the person that's interviewing me, and I will make sure that I bring it into the forefront of the interview. I would say, oh, I've learned different styles, or by this restorative way of behavior management policy. I've gone on CPDs and I've seen that when I come to this school, I'll be able to give my own 2 cents about it and learn with people who are already practicing this. It's sort of like I'll be speaking the person's language. And when you speak a person's language, comment down below what you think. It sort of resonates somewhere in your mind. You feel like, oh, I'd like to have this person on my team. And that way you sort of endear yourself to whoever it is that's interviewing you. I could also say that I've worked in so and so country and I've enjoyed it, and it's time for my professional and personal growth, and I see that this is the job that's been advertised, and for me that's career growth. So that way you show that you're ready to learn, you're ready to move forward, you're ready to take your career in the next direction, and they are the ones who you've chosen. It's almost like I'm choosing a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or a new husband, that sort of thing, and they always like that. So yeah, that's something that you can use in your interviews as well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I really liked the idea of checking them up on Instagram. One of the interviews I went on Instagram and then got onto the school's, sorry, on LinkedIn and got onto the school's
Where's
profile on LinkedIn. And then I even saw the HR team. So all of them, the picture of all the team members who were meant to recruit. I could easily just look at the email, whoever
yeah,
was that sent me the email. I saw her picture there and then I saw her team. making that connection, at least seeing them before I get to meet them, kind of
Yeah.
ease my nerves a bit. And then I
Yeah.
take a step further to go into their individual pages to then get to know a little more about them. So that way it feels like, okay, I already know them even before I actually get to meet them. So it kind of calms the nerves a bit. And yeah, also helps me have, know what it is that resonates with them, and then know how to prepare my questions to align with that. So I completely agree with that point.
Exactly. I mean, that part of preparing your questions, because there's nothing you hate as much as you're coming to the end of an interview. They ask you, so what questions do you have for us? And then you say nothing. For me, it just shows that you're not
Mhm.
invested in this. You just want to get a job.
Yeah.
You're not interested in knowing anything about the school. It's a case of just give me the job and that's it. Interview, answering interview questions, but this makes your answer link into other answers that you will give. Another thing, guys, when you're snooping around on their LinkedIn profile, you have to go to your settings, because I can see everyone who's come onto my LinkedIn profile. So you have to make sure you go to your
Exactly.
settings and
Just it.
you go into ghost mode. Go into ghost mode. I mean, if you want them to know that you're interested, you can go on and
Yeah.
show them that you're
I
looking
feel
through their profile.
I feel
If
if
not,
I'm on a panel and I realize that someone who I'm supposed to interview in a week's time actually looked at my profile, it kind of gives me the impression that this person actually knows what they're doing, right? It gives the impression that they're,
Mm.
so either ways,
yes.
whatever it is you feel comfortable doing, yeah, it could have its, yeah, plus or good side or bad side. There's a good side and bad side to it, though, depending on who you're
Or
snooping
bad side.
Well,
on.
for
You
me,
you
when I
don't
went
know
for
who
my
you don't know how they feel. Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
mm. For me, when I went for my interview,
So yeah. Okay.
I told them I searched about them online. So that was where I got like the motto of the school. So I told them, yes, I went online to search about the school. Yes, and I got some information about the school. So I know the school needs this, needs that. So that is why I've applied to the school. So I don't think that's a problem, anyways.
Yeah. So
I
do I
mean,
move on to
it
the third
depends
question?
on who's interviewing you.
Yeah.
Sorry, it
Yeah.
depends on who's
Yeah.
interviewing you and how they feel. Some people feel
Yeah.
like, why are you doing the last minute homework? So it could also go the wrong way for you. If you had done it before when you were
Mm,
looking at the whole
mm,
HR team, then it speaks a little bit more because it means that you're prepared, you're planning, and it's all the things that you need to do as a teacher. But if you go 2 days before the interview, some people will see it as lastminute.com kind of person. So it depends on you and what you're comfortable with, like Momi said. But honestly, I go on LinkedIn, I search them up, I search past staff, because you know how LinkedIn connects people who are in the same connection as you. I search up past staff, and sometimes I ask them questions. What do you, I'm interviewing for this, can you give me tips? All these things you need to put into your arsenal. And your interviews will be the thing is, you would even get more confident because it feels like you now know everything. Well, you can't never know everything about them, but at least you know a lot
Yeah.
about them before you interview with them. Okay, I'll stop being a teacher. I'll let you
Okay.
say
So
the
the
next
third
question.
question: why did you choose to teach children in this age range? Uh, I think that
I love that question. I love that question.
mm,
yeah. So this one will be more specific on the key stage or the age group you're teaching. So why are you choosing that particular age group? They also maybe would want to know if you have an understanding of the curriculum and teaching
mhm.
strategies that might apply to
Yes.
those set of kids.
Age group.
So you
Yeah.
would you would
Yes.
want to say something like, okay, you're passionate about teaching children, because then you give your reason, maybe because they are very curious and um they are enthusiastic about learning. You like to be a
Mm,
part of their developmental stage, um the excitement you get when you see them getting things right and all that, and then you want to
Yeah.
make a lasting impression or impact in their lives during their formative stages, stuff like that. And then maybe you could also say that it gives you joy to help students that are developing or trying to develop their strengths and interests during their crucial developmental stage. Now, I'm an early years teacher, so that's why you're hearing me say a lot about developmental stage, developmental stage. So you're going to be tailoring this to your own grade level or age group
Mm.
that you teach. Yeah.
Personal touch in this, because you know what, when I go to interviews, it's always nice when you show that you're a little bit invested in that question, because you have a personal uh, you have a personal investment in it. So my children are 5 years apart, so I'm always able to find a way to bring my children into, I don't know, for those of you watching, if you watched last week's live where someone talked about bringing children into the CV, and I said I always leave it for the interview. During my interview, I find a way to segue my children into the interview. I could say something like, my daughter's in Key Stage 2. I'm very familiar with the Key Stage 2 curriculum because of the homework that I do with my daughter, and because we find a way to make her objectives very personal and applicable to things we do in the house. And I will probably say one thing. I could say something like, in year 4, she studied the Celts, and because she studied the Celts and we did the project together, I got really into the majority of my experience is in the early years. I feel like my personal uh, affiliations with this key stage is has prepared my curiosity, prepared my mind, prepared my focus to know the progression of my children from the early years to it. I've put in that I know something about the curriculum. I've put in there that I know that the children I'm teaching now are going into that key stage. So I want to know where they're going, which is why I'm applying for this job so that I can learn, I can put my own experience into it, and I can be the best staff that, my curiosity and all of that. So that way you're showing the person, not only am I professionally invested in this job and this key stage, I'm also personally invested in this key stage because of things that are happening in my life. And that way, you sort of show them that you're the kind of parent who's involved with your child's education. You're the kind of parent who understands the key stage. You're the kind of parent who you just, everything you're doing is sort of geared towards it, and you're having fun with it. And they will look at you like, oh, okay, all right, who's this person? We want this person on the team, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a good trick to use. Try and bring in the things in there that will make you look more professional and more invested in whatever role you're going for.
Okay. Do I move on to
Right.
the next
Next question.
question? What What are your core
Yes.
strengths? What are your core strengths? This is the time where you display all the
I love this question.
All
skills
the strengths, all the strengths
You know
you
what?
have.
Did you
skills,
see where I
curriculum
just
planning, every good thing you do in class, how you're able to differentiate instruction, how you're able to collaborate with maybe your TA or
Yeah.
your grade partner, all those skills that set you apart for this role, you need to bring them in at this point, your
Yeah.
strengths.
Mm.
And then if you have
Yeah.
scenarios as
Yes.
well to
and always
showcase a particular time when you actually did stuff that shows that reflects your strengths, that would be a good time to also bring that in.
Yeah.
I remember one of the interviews that I went to. Oh, sorry, Momi, do you want to go jump
Yeah, I
into
just
this one?
wanted to talk about the scenario what you talked about. So even though the fact we are saying okay, don't talk too much, I would say for a teaching CV, we're still, even they will still get to that point whereby they're going to ask you questions about scenarios in the classroom. So you can give examples, relatable examples, while you're explaining what you've done in the classroom. Like when I worked in a sense school, at the time I did my interview, a question came up whereby I had to, like, it was part of my skills anyways. This child doesn't want to do anything, but on this particular day I was in the class, and this child, this particular child, did a lot. It was emotional for me, it was emotional for my TA. We were so happy. This is the kind of skills they want to hear, like your strength, what you have done, your
Yes.
success in the classroom. So you can give examples, you can give scenarios, just let it be in line with the job description. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I like the follow-up question that they always throw. Because when they ask you about your strength, the next thing they'll ask you is, what are your weaknesses? They always ask that question.
Yes.
And just like I like the question that says, what are your strengths? I also like the one that says, what are your weaknesses? Now, my way of answering both questions is, because I know sometimes I go on, I answer one question, but have you ever been to interviews, ladies, where you answer one question and then they'll say, well, you've answered one question, but you've been able to answer 3 or 4 other questions on the
Yeah,
list. It's
yeah.
because you make it explicit, you make sure it's packed. One question, one answer from you will answer 4 or 5 questions at once. Now, my way of answering that question is I always say something like, my strength is that I'm a determined person, and my determination to succeed always it's sort of like what drives me in the classroom. And they will say, give and I'll give examples. Like my favorite example to give, guys, you can borrow from this, you can modify it. I was in Oman at the time, and I was in the EYFS classroom, and the school was a small school when I first joined them, and we didn't have a kitchen in the EYFS classroom. For all my early years, you know what it means to not have a kitchen in your classroom. It means you can't bake cookies, you can't make Play-Doh, you can't do all the cooking things like measuring and all the other things with the children. So it's sort of restrictive. And I really wanted a kitchen in my classroom. So I went off to my line manager and I said to her, is there any money in the budget? Because I would like to have a kitchen in my classroom. She said, go off and write it. And I wrote it all down. And she said, okay, so how do you want to implement this? We don't have money for this janitor. I'm really sorry. We can't do this. After writing all of that, but my determination to succeed made me go back and table out how to execute it. I decided that we're going to go into the kitchen, the school kitchen, bake cookies, ask the parents of my class and the next class to come in and have a bake sale. You know how parents like to eat cookies that their children have baked. So we'll then ask them for a token donation and we'll explain to them why we're doing the donation. And that's how we're able to generate money for the kitchen and the next kitchen in the next class. So when school now hears that, they now go, oh, this person is able to come up with ideas outside the box to help the school. The flip side is when I now talk about my weaknesses, I then say in my bid to be efficient and to be determined, I sometimes do not know when to delegate jobs because I feel it's my idea, and because of that, I have learned over the years to know how to delegate jobs. So that way, you're telling them your strength, you're telling them your weakness, but it benefits them at the end of the day. I don't know how you guys see it, ladies.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's not enough to just say what the weakness is, but then you have to follow it up with saying what you've done, to let
Mm,
you get over
yeah.
it. So the
Yeah.
example I usually
What
use
you
two
learned.
examples most times. The part about, because a teacher's the time for teaching is usually so short and I have a lot I want to, carry out. I have a lot of Am I? Is the noise? Are you guys hearing the noise? So I have a lot of
Yeah,
things.
it's from me.
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
So I have a lot of things. I have a lot of things I need to get done in the day, but I have learned to prioritize my activities, like scale them and then pick them out one after the other. Another example I always use is what's that second
Yeah.
example? Okay. I'm very like independent and I like to get things done by myself because I know I'm able to. But I've also learned that the community where I work has a lot of talented individuals, and I've learned to leverage my other colleagues' skills, and I've learned to go with them when I struggle. Go to them when I struggle as well. So you say what your weakness is, and then say how you're tackling or trying to help yourself, get better at that your weakness. So the strength and the weakness go
Yes.
hand in hand.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes, hand in hand. And I like your example because when you tell them that you're very independent, you know that part on our CVs where we say I can work without supervision. You're indirectly telling them, you see, I'm very independent and I can work without supervision. So you're sort of buttressing what you put on your CV, but you're doing it as if you're not really you're showing, not telling. Remember last week when we talked
Yeah,
about it
yeah.
during the live, you're
Because
showing, you're not
yeah,
telling them
in
what to do.
reality,
And yeah,
yeah, actually in reality, nobody's an island. You always need people, no matter how independent you think
Yeah.
you are. Yeah, especially with teaching, because the set of kids you have this year will be completely different from the ones you have next year, right? So
Mm.
you always have to adapt your content to meet the needs of those students, and then sometimes you get stuck. You just need to, seek help from colleagues to be able to help, to maybe get ideas and all that. So yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
that's a
So
good one. That's a good one. You're sort of killing two birds with one stone.
one
I
stone.
like that.
Yeah.
You're talking about one thing, but you've talked about your strength and your weakness, and you'll see the interviewer will say, well, you've answered that, so let's move on to the next question. So that way you're
Next.
not wasting your time. You're giving them information that's robust, that's packed, that's just and oh, do you guys know something? How about the tone of the interview? It's not stiff. Do you see what I mean? It's not stiff. You're just,
Yeah,
it's almost
yeah,
like you're chatting, like you guys are just having a
Yeah.
cup of tea
Exactly.
and you're just telling them
Yeah.
about yourself. No, no biggie, no biggie. I'm just telling you about myself, blowing my own trumpet. Because I need you to hire me. Just chatting. Don't worry, when I come into your school, we will all be chatting like this, just easy, not no stress.
You actually
That
you
sort of
actually
thing.
need to have calmed
Right.
your nerves before you go in. You really need to calm your
Yeah.
nerves before you go in. If
Yeah.
not, you might
Yeah.
just go blank, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
need to really calm your nerves. And imagine you're chatting with Jay and Mommy. You're not seeing the people sitting there. They are your friends sitting
Yes,
right
now
there, and then you just chat
Yeah.
on. Yes, that's how I do it.
you're
I just
just chatting,
imagine there are people I like to talk to, and then I chat.
Yeah.
having
Yeah, because it can be really nerve wracking
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. Okay,
Do
number
you know what?
6. I,
You can have a you can they always ask you if you want coffee, if you want tea.
Yeah.
You can have a
Yeah. But
drink,
I never
during
had
the
coffee.
face-to-face interview, not the
Jay,
demo tea.
Jay, have you ever felt cold when the weather is hot?
Really?
I never had coffee.
When the weather is hot, you're really feeling cold, and somebody's asking you if you want water. No, I don't want water. Let's get done with this right now. When you're
Do
the
you
last
know?
interview I went for, they actually
But
asked me, and I'm
I
like,
always ask.
no, no, no. And one thing I also want to say
Really?
is,
I always
is
ask. I will tell them, um,
yeah, it's also
sorry,
okay
sorry.
if
I
you're,
always ask them for water.
yeah.
I would even say, do you have I would say, do you have a slice of lime? Can you put a slice of lime?
Girl, lime.
Because that water helps me to breathe. I just I asked for lime, but I've only gone for one interview where I was face to face. I've only gone for one interview where I was face to face. Most of my interviews are virtual,
Oh,
Skype or
lucky you
Zoom or
then.
FaceTime.
Lucky you.
So
Ah,
I will always have my water, and I would when they're talking, like when they're asking me questions, I was because that gives me the time for my brain to arrange some things. I'll have a sip of water. I'll put it
Yeah,
down.
and
I'll
you're
see if I'm a
thinking
cute,
through it.
cool cucumber. Not knowing that inside I'm trying to rearrange the brain like a puzzle. Oh Jesus. Let's go.
After I attended my first interview here, I was like, international teachers are actually having fun. You guys are it's a cruise for you guys.
yeah,
Because you're here in the UK, the chances are the role you applied for is in a different county. So first of all, you have to travel
Yes.
to the county, and then you get there on that day. Everything is strange. It's not your territory. Like you're seeing new faces everywhere. You have to teach the kids. Then, of course, with their classrooms, there's a lot of students with learning needs and all that. So they are
yeah,
checking to see how you manage your classroom,
Yes.
how
Yes.
you relate to the
SEN children are
class.
everywhere.
They're also
yeah,
checking the
Yes.
evaluation content. And then when you're done, you just have a few minutes to get into the hall where you're doing the interview. That's if they do not have another activity. Like in that case,
Yes.
they also needed me to do a read aloud for a set of kids that had learning
Right.
needs. So they were also going to observe how I read the book and how I interact with the kids. Imagine all that. And then I had to travel
Of
back
course.
to my county on
Of
that same
course.
day. So it's really a lot. So you need to take time and plan. And then how about if you're asked a question and
It's
you really genuinely don't know the answer? Do you guys think it's okay to say, I don't know, but I mean, what do you think?
I
for me,
would
I
tell you
don't
the
think you
truth.
should say. I would, to be honest, well, for me, to be honest, I was asked a question. That was the only question I didn't know the answer. I went blank. But I don't know whether with my education training from Nigeria, whereby even if your student asks you a question you don't know, you just have to say something. So I tried repackaging the question, saying all the CPDs I've learned, try to, I don't know if I was right anyway, try to answer that question, but I didn't say I don't know this. No, I didn't.
you, you were
Personally, I would
sweating
say I
on your
don't
tongue.
know. I wouldn't be ashamed to admit the fact that I don't know, but I can always say something like that I am always
Yeah.
open. I have a group mindset and I am open to learning new things. And if I come into the organization, I'm very quick with learning
Exactly.
and I'm going to, collaborate with my peers and learn as much as I can from them. I mean, they know that everybody doesn't know everything. Like even they
Everything,
themselves don't know everything,
yeah.
right? And sometimes
Exactly.
because it's an
Exactly.
interview, you might even forget some of the things you know. So I
Yeah,
don't
you're
think
right.
I don't know, but I'm just going to tell you that in as much as I don't know this, but I'm a very hands-on person. I'm someone that learns really fast and I'm open-minded.
Mm.
I'm open to correction and I'm open to, learning new things from people. I continually look for ways to grow and get better at what I do. And then once I join the organization, I'm good, just say things to let them know that yes, although you got this question wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I applied for I applied for a maths coordinator job a while back. Not maths coordinator, maths teacher before I then became the maths coordinator. So what I did was, because I'd been in the early years, and of course they can see that I don't have the qualifications to be a maths teacher. I don't have the experience to be a maths teacher. But then I told them, I said, I've worked in the early years. I know where the children are coming from, and I'm a very fast learner. So, because of that, I know that when I get into that role, because of my prior knowledge, I'll be able to learn as the children are learning and get all the CPDs. And I was able to rattle off a few CPDs off the top of my head. So that way they see that, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm open to learning and I already know a few things that I can latch onto and I know where to go to get all the tickets. But I know one, two, three, four, five. So six will not be a problem for me because I will know how to help myself get six. And I think when you're open like that, in a progressive way, in a proactive way, they see that okay, this person, this is somebody we can learn with. Because let me tell you, there's so many things. One school's culture is different from another school's culture. You might be in one school and you think that you're a guru, and you go to
Yeah.
another school, and the way they teach makes you feel like you're an idiot. So they know that there's going to be learning
Yeah.
that's going to happen.
Mm.
So I think it's good to project that you are a continuous learner and that you're open to learning not just from the children, but also from your colleagues, and you'll be a team member. So yeah, I will be happy to tell them, not happy, but I will tell them that I don't know that thing, that sort of thing. Okay,
Okay,
Oyin,
so the
next
next
question. You're the
next
moderator
question.
today. Mom is doing the comments.
She's the accurate timekeeper.
Hmm.
What can you bring to the role that other candidates may not bring?
My favorite
So,
question. Okay, I changed my mind. This is
Mm.
my favorite question. Usually,
uh,
I
mommy,
apply to international schools. So sorry, Oyin. Usually
no, go
I
ahead.
apply to international schools. So one of my biggest superpowers that I always have in my pocket is that I can speak seven languages. That's the first thing. So
Yeah.
I'm able to talk. I'm able to bridge the gap between myself and the new children. That's one. Two, I know what it feels like to learn a new language from scratch on the fly. So because of that, I understand the problems that the children would have, especially if I'm teaching in a country where English is not the first language. So I know I understand their journey. I can empathize with them, and I'll be patient with them because I know what it feels like to learn a language and be treated like a baby and how condescending it is. I will also talk about all the different countries I've lived in and how I've learned how to quickly hit the ground running. I would also talk about how traveling to different countries has helped me mingle with different people from different cultures. So I know how to read the room quickly. I know when for example, in Egypt, for example, if I say, "Oh, come on, you're so dirty, you're like a pig," that is an insult because in Arabic culture, you can't call someone a pig. It's one of the biggest insults you can ever give someone. Whereas if I come to the UK, "Oh, stop doing that, you dirty pig," it's not an insult, it's banter. Just do you see what I mean? It's so I
Yeah.
understand different cultures and I know how to blend in easily. So that's usually my superpower. Like when you're playing a joker and you just bring your joker and you hit it on the table like game over. So that's usually mine. So what would yours be?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Jay, because of course everyone would say they have an inclusive classroom, um they work with special needs kids. So that's they want something special, kind of what sets you apart. So that's where your wider skill comes in. If you're passionate about music, or you've taught music, or you have a background like you do music, that's something to bring in. For me, it's usually sports. I played football and a lot of sports back in secondary school, all the way into even after university, NYSC, volleyball, table tennis. You can name different sports I did. So that's what I usually use, because yeah, it comes handy for me. Um, so that's what I actually do use. So
Mommy, what's your superpower?
For me, I talk about my teaching methods, my teaching style. That is what I use, because I tell them that when I did my master's degree, my project was on teaching methods, whereby I researched on the conventional way of teaching using static pictures and using videos. So I did like a research on these three to know which one would actually work well, whereby the students will understand well, will learn well with these three learning styles. So I use my learning style style, and I tell them I have learned a lot. Where when I'm planning my lesson, I incorporate beautiful pictures, I incorporate videos, and I use different learning methods, learning styles, depending on the age of the children, depending on the level of the children in my classroom, depending on their capability, depending on their learning pace. So I use these teaching methods. I tell them the several teaching methods I use. I use instructional. I use play away method. Whenever I mention play away method, I know this is the play away method is used in Nigeria. Whenever I mention this, they just laugh. I use the play away method, yes, whereby we do a bit of playing when I notice, because when you have some classes, your students will get bored, especially when they're getting disrupted, just know they are bored. So when I see they are bored, we just do some play away method, and you will see after 5 minutes, you coming back onto your lesson, you will actually get them working right on whatever topic you're teaching them. So this is what I say.
Who says it's only in Nigeria they use play away? We do a lot of brain breaks. A
That's
lot of
okay.
brain breaks. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
Yeah.
I meant the word. I don't know if it's also called play away,
you.
like
Okay,
here.
okay, okay. I don't know, but that's a
Yeah.
very good strategy. You mentioned lots of nice strategies there. If I were
Yes. So
a
Yeah.
recruiter, I'll definitely hire you. Yeah, you just won my heart over. Yeah. So do I move on to the next question?
so basically, we've all no, we'll just add something there.
Wrap it
So
up. Okay.
basically, three of us have talked about three different things that we have that we're good at. And so just sit down. If you're watching this today, sit down, think about something that you're really good at. Maybe someone has mentioned it at school where you work, or someone has mentioned it in your family. Ah, you use a very nice voice when you tell children stories. That is your superpower. Just embellish it, make it feel like it's the greatest superpower there is on the face of the earth, and that will be your strength, or that would be something that you would say you bring to the job. And please, let's not forget, if you're on this live today, you're on this live because you're one of those who heard our clarion call to increase the representation in schools. So please do not overlook the fact that you being of African descent, or you being from a different continent, don't see it as don't make it look small. Don't underestimate your power. It's a power for you. I mean, someone shared something with me recently. She said she went into a school. She's from my WhatsApp group. She went into a school and she said she wanted to volunteer. And the head teacher told her, yes, please, thank you. We have 25 African children at this school, and the children will really benefit from having you. So her superpower was that she's black. She's from Africa, so she could talk to the African children. So you can don't say my superpower is that I'm black. No, you find a way to talk about it in a professional way, that you're bringing value and representation for those children in the school. Because we remember a school is made up of the society in which it stands. So if there are 30% of the school is made up of African children, you are bringing value and representation for those children so that you can motivate them and mentor them. If you put it that way, you sound more professional than just saying, I'm black. We all know you're black and you're bringing value because you're black. But if you put it in a professional way, then it'll go a long way. What do you think, Oyin?
Yeah, that's actually a key strength
We've lost
because
the
then
mommy.
yeah, Omomi left. As a black teacher, you're also able to communicate with the parents as well. Yeah, so not just the teacher, and you could even extend it to not just the blacks, but other minority races, right? Yes, so that's it basically. Omomi, we lost her, and I'm sure she'll join us soon. I think it's network. Should we just move on?
Let's see if she's backstage. She's not backstage. Yeah, we can move on and then she'll join us. Like how I disappeared in our first live because of network.
Okay, so the next question is, how would you work with a teaching assistant in your classroom? See, this particular question it seems like something that is really not important, but it will amaze
That's
you
my
how some teachers have a hard time even working with other teachers. Because I remember some of the teachers I worked with when I was a TA in Nigeria, some of them said to me that they had never worked in a classroom with another adult. So having another adult in the room made them uncomfortable, right? So, as simple as this
wow.
question is, they really want to understand if you understand the role of your TA in the classroom, and if you also understand how you can leverage their presence in that
Yes.
classroom to be able to support the kids, right? So, for me, I could use scenarios of when I worked with my TA, how I ensured that she was involved during, maybe not during the lesson planning, but I would always share the lesson plan with her. So she always understood what the objective of
With
each
her.
lesson was and what her role with the kids was. So it's usually clearly stated, okay, I need you to work with these two children, and this is what I'm looking out for. This is how I need you to support them. So that way, you're letting them know that you're able to collaborate, and indirectly, you're also being a team leader. You're being a good team player, also being a good team leader, and you're also bringing in your communication skills as
Yes.
well. Also, another thing is, with the TAs, sometimes your TAs actually get to spend more time with the children. So even with writing your report cards, you might need
Yes, they
to
do.
refer to them, ask questions, certain questions about those kids. So, how well are you communicating with your TA, or how well can you communicate with a TA? Those are the things you are looking out for. Are you able to collaborate? Are you able to set clear expectations for your TA? Are you able to delegate? That's another thing. Are you able to delegate? Because that person is
Yes.
there for a reason. You're not supposed to be doing everything by yourself. So are you able to delegate? You could say, when I worked with my TA, when I worked in my previous role as a teacher, I delegated activities, um, delegated certain activities like working one on one or one to one with kids who needed support. And you could also add in what capacity. And then you also would communicate with that TA to get feedback to be able to guide your planning the next instruction, right? Because the TA is
Exactly.
also a professional like you. The TA is also a professional
Yeah.
like you. So they are looking out for your ability to delegate, your ability to communicate, your ability to set clear expectations, and your ability to now gather the data from that person to plan your next instruction. So bear that in mind.
Exactly. Exactly. I think I always start mine by saying that TA and I uh, interact with one another. The children will benefit from the positive energy that the TA and I give off in the classroom. So it's on me, the teacher, to make sure that the relationship between my TA and myself is really, really strong. We're going to be modeling behavior and showing the children how to interact with people in the outside world. So our relationship sort of guides the whole class. I always throw in there that my TA and I are like non days, but we never allow it to affect the energy in the classroom because the children will sponge off this energy. I mean, it doesn't matter even if you're teaching year 12 or college, as long as you have another adult in the classroom, you have to make sure that the relationship between yourself and that adult is really, really good. If you have disagreements, which you would have, because you're strangers, you would have disagreements, you just have to make sure that you find ways to resolve the conflict. So that way you're showing the interviewer. So with that relationship with your TA, there's so many things that you can explore, and just sit down and think about how you make yourself look good while making your whole managerial. I think this is the part where they're trying to find out what kind of manager you are. So yeah, just
Yeah,
build on it,
leadership skills. Yeah,
really, really well. I know in Nigeria, I remember the time when I worked in Nigeria, I remember that I was trying to make the TAs have more of a responsibility in the classroom. I was head of early years at that school, and I was trying to get the TAs to one corner, like they were maids. And I wanted them to understand that your TA is an integral part of your classroom. She's an adult, she's an extra pair of eyes, she's an extra adult in the classroom, she's an extra resource in the classroom. So, yeah, don't go with the Nigerian way of treating TAs. Think about how they treat TAs in the diaspora, because you're. Next question.
Well,
Welcome
someone
back.
just asked. Thank you. Someone just asked, and I think we should answer that. I just want to find out if one is asked to teach during online interviews. So, Jay, you should answer that.
Yes, you always do a demo teach during an online interview, because they're hiring you to be a teacher, and if they're hiring you to be a teacher, it's not just about the talking and your managerial skills and the way you're able to impress at the interview. You will actually do a demo teach. And my next video that's coming out is supposed to be about demo teach for online interviews. So you're going to make sure that um you might have a classroom, but make sure you do it in such a way that the children's faces, position the camera in such a way, because safeguarding is still a big thing. You have to position the camera in such a way that the children's faces will not be showing. Maybe you can show them from the neck down, because actually you're trying to focus on the work. With the behavior management, they'll be listening to your voice anyway. So the camera should be positioned on you, maybe from the back of the classroom. The children's faces will not show. I usually have 2 or 3 cameras feeding into the interview, and in next week, in next week's video that's coming out. But yes, you will be asked to do an online demo teach.
What if you don't have kids to to show?
If you don't have kids to show, they will tell you. So the first thing, when they tell you that you're going to be doing a demo teach, I always say, when you're in doubt, ask questions. As soon as you get the email saying you're going to be interviewing on so day, they want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from you, you're going to ask them questions, because nobody's going to tell you off for asking you something to do the right thing. So you're going to ask, I can't use my classroom because of safeguarding. Is it okay for me to use maybe a group of teachers to be my demo class, or is it okay for me to use your classroom? I've actually done a demo teach before, where I was teaching their own classroom. So I was like beaming myself into the classroom, and I had to see what you know how children can be silly sometimes when you're teaching and you're on the other side, like during COVID, when we're teaching and the children were doing funny things. So it's a bit difficult, because you have to still make sure your behavior management is on point. You have to make sure that you can see what's happening around the classroom. Yeah, but yeah, you will do a demo teach. If you can't use your own children, you will use their own children, or you will use their own staff, but you will do a demo teach.
Okay.
Someone said, I'm in Nigeria and was given QTS in March. I have applied to many jobs, but no response is forthcoming. I had an interview with Engage Education, but was not approved. What else can I do? Keep
Keep
going.
applying.
Don't give up. Keep going.
My
Nothing good
first
comes.
my first thought about that is that you've not gotten interviews from the first applications you sent out. You've gone to a recruiter. A recruiter will usually take anyone, and if there's something wrong with your CV, they will arrange it. My guess is that you do not have a few things. Either you do not have the pedagogy, or you do not have go and take a few CPDs and add. Maybe when they're asking you questions, you don't seem like someone who understands. I'll give you an example. They might ask you a question to do with physics, for instance, and you are You know physics, you're talking about physics, but you're not talking about key stage 3 physics that you're applying for. You're probably talking about Nigerian SS2 or SS3 physics. You are way off in what to say so that the other person thinks that you're fit for the job. If the jobs are not asking you to come in, you didn't do your CV properly. If you've gone through a recruiter and the recruiter didn't ask you to come back, then you need to go and sit down and think about your curriculum knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so what Jay is saying in essence is re-strategize, right? Go back to the drawing board and see
Yeah,
what the
the
child.
person should do that because I've like those that I refer to engage education, some of them came back and they said they were approved with their initial interview. So I would say because some of them sent their CV to me first, in which we did some revamping and all that. So I would say just like Jay said, try and re-strategize, go the CV, CPDs, everything. Yeah, and then you can shoot again. You can also shoot to other agencies.
What is the most
Yes.
difficult
And
feedback?
some people, instead of, sorry,
Yeah.
for some people, I've seen a few people, school will ask you to fill their own application form, but you ignore that and you send your CV. That they will not call you back because the
Uh,
first thing is you need to
yeah,
show them you understand the language. If the language says
yeah,
fill out our own form and you send a CV, you don't understand English. That's what you're invariably trying to tell them. I don't understand the language. If I understand the language, I will not send my CV, I will fill out your form. So they won't look at it. I'm really sorry. So so many things that we do that we think, oh, I've done so much. Or maybe you're applying to jobs you're not qualified for. That's another thing. You might be applying to jobs you're not qualified for. You might think, I've been teaching for
yeah.
17 years in Nigeria, but you're not qualified for the job you're applying for. Yeah, it won't happen. Okay, Onyi, do you want to carry on?
What is the most difficult feedback you have ever had to give and why?
I will go
Mm,
with this one. And the most difficult feedback I've had to give was to my TA, and she was it was to ask her to there was a safeguarding issue, and I had to give her feedback on the way she talked to the children. She was new in the country just like me. She was from a different country, I was from a different country, but then I had the experience to be to have worked in the British system for such a long time that I knew certain words that you don't say to children. I know certain words that you should not even say around children or in the classroom. So I had to give her feedback. Even though we had built a relationship, I now had to be, I had to wear the coat of her line manager at that point and tell her that we need to sit down and look at this thing together because this will affect one, two, three, and these are the reasons why we need to address it so that parents don't start complaining. I made her understand that I have been through that before at the beginning of my career, but that so I totally understand where she's coming from. But we need to work with it. We need to work together to get her to the finish point because if she doesn't get to the finish point, then I don't get to the finish point. So that way, I'm trying to tell her we're in this together, even though I'm giving her feedback that I know it's not something that anyone wants to.
yeah. I would say that the most difficult feedback I've ever given was a constructive criticism to a student who was struggling academically, but also had a little bit of confidence issue. So I had to give that feedback while maintaining her confidence and while motivating her as well. So I was a bit empathic. So my approach was to be empathic, and then I focused on the specific areas of improvement and then offered that support that the student needed. Yeah, to help them succeed.
Yeah. It's a difficult one,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Because some
To
kids
give
don't want to hear that they
that
are
kind
doing
of feedback.
something wrong, right? So how do you give that feedback and still, make them get it right
Is it
without
just
making
the
them feel
is it just the children or the parents?
Feel.
parents do, yeah. Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
the parents
Parents
don't
do.
want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes the parents don't want to, because I feel like you build a relationship with the children in your classroom. So giving them feedback sort of comes, you know how to sort of test the waters to give them feedback. But when that child now goes home with that feedback, so the parent is hearing it, and it's sort of, this is the reason why my school does parents meeting before reports go out. We call them in, we sort of
And some of them don't show up for those meetings. Like
soften
most
the
parents don't
blow.
show up for meetings. So, and it's those ones who
Some
do
of them
not,
don't show up.
yeah, those ones who don't show up are the ones that complain the most, right? Because if you understand the strategy the
Yeah,
teacher is
but
using and understand that, yeah, okay,
yeah,
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 if you understand that the teacher is there to support your child and understand where the teacher is taking the child to and the strategies that come into doing that, knowing that is for the good of the child, then you won't be questioning it as much as long as you understand what the teacher is up to. But if you're not there for those
yeah,
meetings, it means there is a
then
lot
it's
you're
hard.
missing. So you just, make inferences that don't really align with what's going on, and that's where the problem comes in. What did Jay do? She just disappeared. She touched something and went off. Yeah, so that's it with the
Can we go
parents.
on
it
to
can,
the next?
it
Let's
can be
go
really
on. Yeah.
it can be really tricky with the parents. Yeah, I had one parent one time. You still after COVID. This child came in after COVID and she never went to school until that point, right?
Mm.
And then when she came into the classroom, a week after, the man came complaining and he went on and on and on about how he wasn't happy with the child. He wanted the child to have known a lot, but this child had never been to school. And this particular kid walked around the whole class the first day she came. She couldn't even settle, and it was there for me to explain that I have seen progress with this child, but just because he's not getting what he thinks is progress, I'm like, for this
Mm.
child to sit down in the class for 10 minutes, that is good
Yeah.
progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's progress. She's making progress. Just give her the time she needs and she'll be fine. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it took me kind of explaining things to the man, and that was because he listened and then was a bit patient with me, right?
Yeah.
And eventually everyone was happy. So yeah, it's very difficult if parents do not know maybe even the curriculum you're using or understand what you're doing, because they expect the child to be counting 1 to 100 and the child is not doing, especially for the young ones. Oh, in my child's
Mm.
school, my child can already say A to Z. My child's
Yeah.
friend can already say A to Z, but my child is still young.
Yeah. Mm.
So all that comparisons and all that, it can be crazy sometimes. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, right? Mommy, with me?
Yeah. Yes,
So the
please.
next one is describe a good lesson. What I think the recruiter is looking out for here is um if you actually understand what, okay, what's that noise?
It's from Jay.
Can you hear me? Okay, okay. I think that what the recruiter is looking out for here is that if your understanding of how a good lesson plan fits into your, if you understand what actually makes up a good lesson plan. So the way I would approach this is to say that for me, a good lesson plan is one where every child is actively engaged. So I feel like if the kids are engaged and they are enthusiastic about what they are learning, then I'll describe that as a good lesson. It's also one that I incorporate a variety of activities, like hands-on activities, maybe centers, and differentiate instruction for kids in their different centers. A good lesson to me will also have a very clear learning objective that the kids understand and are able to connect with. So a good lesson plan would also have the reflection piece. So how am I assessing the kids at the end? Am I observing them? Am I giving them an exit ticket? What exactly am I doing to reinforce the learning and ensure that they are taking away something from the lesson for that day? Welcome back, ma'am. So, describe a good lesson. And I just said that a good lesson for me will be fun and engaging. It will be one that kids have different um able to interact with different activities. So they have different centers is what I called it. So in each center, they have a way to interact with that thing I've taught them in different ways so that that concept is being consolidated, and they would also be aware of what the learning objective for that day is. So I'm going to communicate it clearly to the kids,
Hello.
and there would also be a reflective piece to the lesson. So at the end of the lesson, there will be some form of assessment to ensure that, or a way to reinforce the learning to ensure that the kids were able to grasp the concept that was being taught that day.
Yeah.
So let's just fly through the questions. I think I saw a comment down here. Somebody asked a question. She said, so that their interviews are not like Nigeria HR. Okay, I guess that is
Then
that. Yeah, that's a question. She put a question
yeah,
mark, so I'm asking a
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, the interviews are not
They are
exactly the
not.
same. Yeah, so in Nigeria, we would usually just write I think the interview I attended back home, we had an something like an exam. You just had
Yes,
to
same
answer
here.
some questions, and
Yeah,
at the
same
end of
here.
those
In
questions, they
fact, I
would
was given a WAHEC, West African Examination exam to write.
so after
Yeah, so
that,
just try.
the names of those who
Yeah,
passed were listed, and then you come in for the
yeah,
interview. But
yeah.
in this part of the world, what they do is you actually do teach a lesson, teach
Hmm.
proper, like teach a class. They
Yeah,
observe you. So imagine
yeah,
having 3 or 4 adults sitting in the room where you're teaching and observing. Imagine how nerve-wracking that could be. And then at the end of that interview, I mean of the teaching on that same day, you're then going to have to face a panel where
yeah.
they interview you and decide your fate. So the next question is, describe a time when you had a lesson that did not go well. What were the reasons for this? Have you experienced your lesson not going well? Mine was, let me just my principal
Okay.
came in for observation that particular day. So at the end of the school
Mm,
year, we usually have the principal come in to observe and then give feedback, and that goes into your file. So I'd planned my
mm.
lesson and everything, and then I started teaching. It's a technology school. Technology decided to fail me. And you know how you have your slides prepared, you have everything you want
Mm.
to interact, all those
Yeah,
things you project on the board. It was a
yeah.
very interactive lesson I planned. But what I did is, as I tried to set that up, it wasn't, I just knew that technology had failed me. So I had to use the things around me. Thankfully, I
Mm,
have other things around. So I grabbed those things and I just turned everything around and made it hands-on, right? For the kids. So I handed the
mm,
kids some counters, some whatever, and I got
mm,
along with the lesson and it went fine. And that was a comment she made because she noticed what went on. So the way I was
mm.
able to adapt the whole thing, it became a good comment she added to my, oh dear, what's happening? So my ability to just, I was flexible. That's the word. I think I was the word is I was flexible. So I quickly switched on to something else and went on with the lesson,
Yeah,
getting
exactly.
frustrated. And even the
Mhm.
kids did not know, right?
Mm,
Yeah. So that's an example I always keep handy for this particular question. And I think that what the
Yeah,
representation
because
now
you is one
is,
question that you will be asked. That is just it.
yeah.
Yes,
So
it's
and they
one
want to know
question.
how
Yeah.
you reacted when
Yes.
whatever it is that went wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It shows
Because
that you're
I
very,
had a similar experience with yours, and that is what I also say in my interviews. Mine also was a technology, and when this happens, especially if you're teaching the older ones, the KS3, KS4, when you have a problem with your technology or something, they keep getting up from their seat and they're telling you, "Oh, Miss, can I help you? Oh, Miss, I know how to do this." Oh, then your class will just be rowdy. So you just
yeah.
try, you just, what you just do, just like Onya said, is just try and keep them busy. What I did was, in fact, my whole system shut down. The projector was not working, the system wasn't working. So I had to like send a mail to the IT team to come into my classroom to come and do whatever magic they want to do. So while doing that, I already gave them, because most of your lessons, I don't know, probably for other subjects, but for science, you have like a printed piece of papers whereby they can do some starters,
Yeah.
some learnings and all that. So I already given them that, okay, work on your starter. You can also do something. So that was what we did. And I can tell you for a fact, throughout the lesson, the projector did not come up. So that was what we
Oh,
did for a whole lesson. But if you just have to like be flexible, just like Onyi said. So, and you can also say this because they know something like this it can happen to anybody. 'Cause I'm not the projector, I'm not the computer, but something. But they just want to know what you would do. Are you just going to sit back and then let your class just go off like that, or what are you going to do? So they just want to know what you're going to do exactly.
yeah. So you were very flexible with adapting to the challenge that you were faced with.
Yeah,
Okay. Welcome back, ma'am. We can't hear you.
I hear you.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I apologize for jumping off and jumping back. Can you not hear me?
We can hear you now.
yeah, we can.
So we
Can
are
we go to
moving
the
on
next
Can you
to the
hear me?
next
question?
question. Describe a teaching method you find effective. Describe a
Well,
teaching
for
method.
me, like I said earlier, for me, like I said earlier, I use diverse teaching methods in the classroom, depending on the age of the children, depending on their capability. But you have to use instructional. That's number one. You have to use instructional to make your class, to put your class in shape. I use the playway method, like I said. I use some other teaching methods. I use diverse teaching methods for me, depending on their age, um, their level, depending on the type of student. If it's science student, I know I'm going to use another, um, like a separate teaching method for that. Depend if it's key stage 3, I know I'm going to use this. If it's key stage 4, I know I'm going to use another type of teaching method. So it just depends on the class and the age of the children.
Yeah, for me, I teach lower kids, and I find that inquiry based method is very good for them because it focuses more on their interests.
Mm.
And yeah, so sometimes I find a kid walk into the classroom and the child comes in with something, maybe a box that they used in creating something that could become a project for us, right? So we can talk about
Mhm.
it and the child can tell me what they have, why they have it, how they came about it. Then I can decide to, if I notice that other kids are interested in that, then that could be a lesson. How can we make things out of boxes? Yeah, that was a theme, a project we did in my school for my pre-K kids. And then a lot of them love animals. So animals, that theme is another one we explore because kids enjoy, most of them like animals, right? So I find that this method of learning empowers the children to take ownership of their learning. They ask questions, they are ready to explore. We go outdoors, you find them thinking critically, they are curious, they are creative, and it also helps them to be independent. So, and when they are learning something they're excited about, or when they are doing something they're excited about, you see that classroom management, you don't have to do a lot of classroom management because they're engaged, they are enjoying
Engage,
what
yeah.
they're, and learning
Yeah.
is taking place, right?
Mhm.
And they're also, you can tell that they are understanding and they're able to retain what they are learning from the questions they
Yeah.
ask. and
Mhm.
learning is more meaningful for them. So I like this teaching method for my kids, my little kids.
Well, because I teach the IB, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we
Can you guys hear me?
yes,
yes
yes.
we
Okay.
can.
And because I teach the IB, the inquiry method is already embedded into the IB. And because it's an international school, and many international schools, even when they do the national curriculum for England and Wales, or the American curriculum, or an adapted form of the K-12 curriculum, the IB is always there because of the international aspect. So we always encourage child-led explores where they are, how it connects to the environment around them, and how it connects to the world, so that they can see the interconnectedness between them, maybe in the UK, and a child's, for example, in China. We're breathing the same air. We all, it could go with the chocolate theme that the IPC uses, for example, where the people who grow it are different from the people who consume it. And you have to find how all these things are connected in a way that will stroke their curiosity. They'll do project-based learning as well. And it's all tied into the curriculum that we use in international schools. So yeah, that's something that I've now come to I've become very confident with. So I will explain that as well. My apologies for
Okay.
disappearing and for a mic that is not working. This is a true testament of when technology works. It works. Like when mommy
Yeah,
was saying, when I segued
it
myself
really
back
failed.
into.
Yeah, it really failed today.
You were not here when we were talking about what's that question? A time when you had a lesson that did not go well. And we talked
Yeah.
about technology, technology, and that's exactly what happened.
And I gave you the
Um,
example of it with my drama self.
okay. We still have a long list of questions, but I see
I
that
think we
we
should.
our time is fast spent. So we're going to
Can
be
we have an
wrapping
episode? Can
up.
we have an episode 2, please? Because
How about
we still have the safeguarding questions, and it's very important.
Very,
okay?
very important.
Let's scroll down. Let's take that safeguarding question, and then I'm thinking maybe in the description of the video we can put the link to the interview questions, just as a
Okay,
way to help those who have
okay,
interviews coming up soon
coming up.
to
Okay,
know.
that's a good
Like
one.
most of the interviews, these are
Yeah,
the
to look at
questions.
it. Yeah.
Yes,
These are the
it's similarized. At
yeah.
least it's
They might just
similarized.
yes, they might just tweak it a bit, but
Yeah.
it all boils down to these questions here. So for the
Mhm.
safeguarding question, safeguarding children is an important part of our work. Can you give me some examples of how you would contribute to making the school a safer environment for children? Mm. So you're going to be explaining your view on safeguarding here. Safeguarding is a responsibility of everyone. That's what they always tell you. So how do you then contribute?
Yes.
I can contribute to making the school a safer environment for children by you're mentioning, familiarizing yourself with the school policies and procedures. That's a good place to start for safeguarding. And then maintaining vigilance and awareness. So you're observing the kids in your care, you're observing for signs of abuse or neglect, and providing a
Yeah.
supportive and confidential environment for the students, right? To be able to, because if your
Yeah.
classroom is not one where the kids feel safe, then they won't be able to disclose things. So
Safe.
you're building that rapport with the kids is very important. So you're going to be ensuring that you create a safe and supportive environment where the kids can feel comfortable to share those confidential information and disclose concerns to you. And then you're also going to collaborate with your colleagues and the external agencies to be able to address those safeguarding issues. But first and foremost, you need to be aware of what the policies in your school
Yeah.
are, the policies and the procedures, and who to go to, because these are the things they will
Mhm.
explain in that policy. Who to go to
Yeah.
when certain things happen, and then how to go, the manner of reporting safeguarding issues. in that part in the particular school where you would be. So that's
Yeah.
how I would address that question.
I mean, I would add something as simple as knowing where the assembly points are for a fire drill, knowing
Yeah.
who the responsible carer is, because I've worked in international schools and I keep going back to this international school thing. I don't understand the language they speak when I first get there. So a parent might be picking up a child today and the next day his a brother is picking up the child. Do I let the child go with the brother, or do I have to know who the responsible carers are? What if it's a kidnapper who's picking up the child pretending to be the uncle? You need to know just little subtle things like that, and reading all the emails, whether the email concerns you, whether it doesn't concern you. You have to read all the emails, because there might be a responsible carer for a child today, and then the next thing, an email goes out at 12 o'clock. Children are leaving school at 1:30. An email goes out at 12 o'clock saying that there's been something going on in that family, and you know, be aware. If you don't read what they've sent out, you won't know. You hand out a child to a person who is not supposed to hand you're supposed to hand the child to. I mean, I've had situations where a dad arrives at the gate, the child says daddy, but daddy is not allowed to have the child because there's a court order on daddy. So we need to be up to date on everything that's happening in the school and read everything, whether it concerns you, whether it doesn't concern you. Maybe there's a sibling in year 3 and you're teaching year 12, and the sibling is in year 3, has just had an asthma attack, and it will affect the child in year 12. You is being abreast of every single. I mean, there's something they say that if you want to hide things from a certain group of people, put it in print. Please, we're not part of that. As long as we're on this group, we're not part of that. We read everything in print because it will save lives. Ooh, it will save lives a
Yay.
lot. Okay.
Yeah, we've come to the end of today's episode of Interview Q&A. It was so nice being here today. We look forward to seeing you all again next week.
The voice changed though.
Bye. You know they do read aloud for children. Don't you read to your kids? Don't you get into the car?
Exactly.
I do,
And Hoyi and Jay,
but okay.
with
Are
Omowumi
you
at
trying
the
to
top to
say
the
it's
end of the
bedtime? Or are you? Yes.
What? I didn't hear you.
No, I was
Thank
saying
you
what
so
I
much,
was
guys,
just
for being
reading.
with
I was
us.
reading the way you were reading. I said, and Oyi and Jay.
Thank you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Yay.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, mine is not
Walking
coming
today.
out. Ah,
This is my
it's not coming.
technology.
It's not
Hey,
coming.
I was lucky today. I was
You're
lucky
not doing it
today.
properly. You have to do it and shake it.
I was lucky today.
It has refused to come out.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. If they leave us,
Bye, guys.
the way we laugh and talk. Bye, guys. See you next week for next week's live
Bye.
episode. And
Bye.
technology, we'll make sure it works next week so there's no interruptions. Bye,
Yes,
guys.
yes, yes. I'll say that again.